Good morning, everybody. I wanted to do a video. I wanted to do this video for the longest time because there's things I started digging out as really, really troubling that is coming our way. And remember, the whole reason why I'm doing these short little informational videos for you guys is because I have the time to sit and sometimes research and crawl into the rabbit hole and find out what is coming, how it's going to affect us, and what we need to watch out for. And while most normal people actually have a life and don't have the time to do this research, that's why I'm doing it, so I can give it to you in a short segment. Let me try to make this short. But there are things that is coming in your future very, very soon. It's already here, in fact, in many ways, that connects to global overreach, to governmental overreach, to governmental control, supervision, surveillance that is going to start affecting you. And I'm going to try to tie together how exactly it is going to start affecting you because it is really troubling. You've all heard about geofencing, for one. We're going to talk about that and a whole bunch of other things. But one of the things that you may have heard of is geofencing on phones is used to catch criminals. Now, if your cell phone is on, there's 3 or 4 different ways, and it can be triangulated to give it take where you are almost down to the coordinate, depending how many cell towers that's pinging. That's how a lot of criminals have been found. That's also how, actually, basically the way they do that is if there's, let's say, there's 3 bank robberies in 3 different parts of the city, and it's suspected it's the same 3 people doing it, they will just go in and see what cell phones were active. It doesn't matter if it's turned off or off, but what cell phones are in the area were in all 3 areas at that time. And if they come up with this matching 3, well, then those are the 3 they'll go pick up. Of course, they'll also find out where you are because you will come up on that search, just like how many people wasn't arrested and interrogated after January 6th just because they used the technology to find out who was in Washington. Well, if you're in Washington, anywhere near this area, you're going to get picked up. And now you're charging people because their phone was in this area, which is troubling in itself. But now it's going to get worse. You know your phone will track you, even when it's off. I need you to remember that. That may not be a big deal if you don't have something to hide. However, not having something to hide, knowing you're not a criminal, well, you're not a criminal today. And I want you to remember this, and I want you to look at, for instance, Great Britain is a very good and very tragic example of this right now, where now the internet police and the speech police and the thought police is out in full form in England, where things you may have tweeted or said that is relatively innocuous or innocent, now all of a sudden that's a crime. There are people being put in prison in the UK for having tweeted, "Men are not women." Things that are, fairly commonsensical to most people, but is considered by the authorities, the authoritarian authorities now, as being hate speech. They have in England logged tens of thousands of non-criminal hate speech, and they continue to do so despite that there's been a law passed for them to not. That means that people are being registered for non-criminal hate speech. You're one step away from being a criminal when they deem that something you have said or tweeted that may be innocent now, next year, maybe that is now deemed a criminal offense. Now you're a criminal. Now you have done something wrong, despite you not even knowing that you have done something wrong or having done something wrong at the time. Remember all the stand-up comedians that made fun of Priuses and gay people or whatever, just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, things were funny. Now you will get fired from cracking those same jokes. This is how this crazy society have changed and have taken that turn, that people that were funny a few years ago, now they're hateful racists. They get fired from their jobs. Their social media gets trailed and surveilled for anything they might have said, and they get pulled in by the police or the FBI or whatever you have in England or Europe. The surveillance society is coming, and one of the tools is going to be geofencing in your car. All cars built after 2024 will have geofencing built in. Many of the cars built since 2016 already have the software installed, just not activated. And geofencing is very, very simple, really. It will define, you can remotely, this is remote geofencing, you can remotely define an area where this car is allowed to go or not leave. We'll turn off the car if you try to leave the designated area. And if you think, well, or that's not a big deal. I mean, why would I want to go there anyway? You remember those glorious politicians that had all these wonderful ideas when it came to COVID a few years ago, where they decided that you can only go 1,000 yards or a couple of kilometers from your house. Can't walk your dog any further from your house. Now you're getting arrested. Now you're breaking the law if you go to the state park. I got a ticket from going to the state park, well knowing that anybody who knows anything about the spread of flu, germs, or aerosol contagion knows that the safest place is outside. So they closed off all the parks and the fence and the beaches and everything and made that illegal to go there. And that's how we knew that something was horribly wrong with what they were doing. Basically, they didn't know what they were doing. So they didn't know what they were doing. They locked people down. They locked people in their houses. They made it illegal for them to go to stores and shops and drive to various degrees around the world. And by the way, most of those politicians who did all those glorious illegally things to you, you voted all of them back for the most part. I guess you kind of forgot the meaning of freedom. But I will remind you, believe me, because freedom is the only thing that really will matter, especially when they start coming to take it from you. Now, geofencing will be a wonderful tool when that's installed in all cars, because if they decide that the next pandemic or the next crisis or the next climate emergency, because the climate is the excuse they're using to scare you all to death right now to do the stupid things they want you to do. And lo and behold, if you actually look at the actual numbers, the ones they don't show you, is that carbon emissions have gone down steadily over the past 10, 20 years to a very low end. Cars are polluting exponentially less than they've ever done before. Climate deaths are also on the decline because, well, we have the technology to keep people alive, to save lives and to protect people. But what do you need to cope with a change in climate situation? You need cheap and plentiful energy. So when they start taking your fuels away, and of course your foods as they're coming for, you see how they come for the farmers and for the meat. Meat is an essential part of what the amino acids your body needs to survive. Even my doctor told me to eat more red meat. You take the fuel and food away, and you are screwed. And if you look at why are they doing this, well, they want to go to new technology. Electric vehicles are not as efficient at all, and they're not by a stretch. They pollute far more than a regular car at this point. If you take into consideration the horrible mining and the lithium and the things you have to put in that gigantic heavy battery, that's also putting a toll on the roads, of course. The people who die from the mining of the materials you need in the battery, the pollution that causes from bringing these things to you to the production site from all the different parts of the world. All of this pollutes more to build a Prius than it does to build an S-Class. And I just think you want to reflect on that a little bit. Plus, you get so much more to the mileage. You have a nice turbo diesel, you'll get twice the mileage for the same amount of money, depending, of course, on what electricity costs, because it's also not cheap to fill up an electric car. Depending where you are in England, it's outrageously expensive. And they've been hammering the electric vehicle drive with drums, despite the fact that there's nobody really wants them. Can't blame people for not wanting them. And of course, with electric cars, especially, everything, the geofencing, GPS, data logging, speed control, all of that is built in. You have a car that is actively listening to you, filming you as you drive. It is filming areas around you. That's what, and I feel a little bad for saying this about Tesla because I do like Musk. I think he might have some good ideas, but I can quote the Electronic Privacy Informational Center lawyer, John Davis, and he said in a report There's always possibility that insurance companies and police regulators and other parties will be able to access the data your car is now recording. And again, electric cars can be hacked. Electric car, Priuses, Teslas, they can be hacked. All the data they're in, and includes it filming your conversations. It's filming the conversation around you. Chinese officials or banned Chinese officials or militaries personnel from driving Teslas because there's cameras everywhere filming in every direction, including you talking next to it. Again, surveillance that people can access. That goes with speed controls. Speed control will also be part of the geofencing package in cars from that have any car that basically have an internet connection, a panic button, anything that's online that will require online, they can do online updates, will have a geofencing installed, and also speed control, remote controls, speed control. So now somebody can sit and say, well, it's environmental day, so you can't go into the cities on Saturdays and Sundays. Geofence that off. By the way, you can't drive more than 30 miles or 30 kilometers an hour because I say so. You have no idea who these people are, just like the EU and the UN that's in the passing laws that affects your freedom and your food chain and your gasoline chain. But the cars, new cars, will start to be able to be remote controlled and in these ways or turned off. And the best part is the data logging. They will also record how you drive, how you corner, how you brake, what your attention is to the road, because many times you'll have cameras pointed at you. And as it is with Tesla, they're supposed to, if the camera in the car registers that you are no longer paying attention to the road, it's supposed to nudge you. It doesn't. It send all this back to the company so it can create something better. But it doesn't nudge you as it's supposed to. Basically, if you have something like this AI watching you and letting you know when you need coffee or when you need to pull over, you're not paying attention, it's supposed to stay within the car, and it doesn't. Again, you also have the conversations. It's bad enough with how intrusive the road cameras are now in filming different angles into your car. Just letting you know with ladies in a low-cut dress that now they're going to start filming up to see if you're holding a phone down here. The way things are going are really, really terrifying. What they want is basically very simple. They want 15-minute cities, digital currency, and internet control and censorship. And that's all they need to control you. If you can't communicate honestly online, which is being implemented, they're shutting down the websites like Telegraph, and they're going after Musk and investigating him just because he wants free speech. And it's interesting to hear people who are ranting, saying, oh, conservatives, they want free speech. That's against democracy. Free speech is the pinnacle of what we need to have democracy, is open and honest discourse and conversation. We are turning into Minority Report. And if you say, well, that's not really what they want, they just want for the environment, the environmentalists, they have no idea what they're doing. Most of the climate nutters out there gluing themselves to cars are, in the truest sense, useful idiots. They are being lied to and brainwashed so terribly about what is to come if we don't start eating meat and driving cars, and all that is part of a bigger agenda. And if you don't have to believe me, because these dictatorial morons are actually saying it themselves. They want 75% less cars on the road. Thus, they're pushing the electric car agenda, despite the fact that there's no electrical grids can actually hold this, cannot carry this. There's not enough lithium being mined in order for everybody to have an electric car, even if that was possible. It's not possible to replace gas and fossil fuel powered cars, diesel cars. I love diesel cars. We should have more of them in America. Wake up. It's not possible to replace them one-on-one. And they know that because they don't want you to have a car. They don't want you to need to travel. That's the concept of the 15-minute city. The concept of that is you live in the city where everything you need, or they deem that you need, is within 15 minutes of travel. You can get there on a bicycle. You don't need to leave the city. You don't need to travel. They are already talking about travel restrictions. You get 1 or 2 foreign travels a year. You don't get to go visit other places because of the climate. Now, the climate is the scare tactic they're using to make everybody panic and bow down and, okay, I guess we have to do it for the climate. No, we don't. We absolutely do not. Climate will be fine. And if there are changes in the climate, yes, is man-made? Probably not. They'll say, scientists say so. No, the scientists, they pay to say so. They say so, or bully to say so. They say so. The ones who think opposite and have documented their claims, they get sued, they get harassed, they get dragged into court, they get censored, they get silenced. That's what the internet censorship about. Why do you think they censored everything that about the vaccine? It's all censored, and even the things that proved to be true was absolutely blasted. And that is a whole nother part of this, is the internet propaganda, the media propaganda, that are all getting their marching orders. And like I said, if you don't you don't have to take my word for it, look up what they're saying. Schwab is gladly saying we want 75% less cars on the road in the world. That's what they want. They want you to live in that city. And what happens with digital currency? Now all your freedoms are gone. All of them. And what happens when they deem that you bought beef once a week? You can't do that twice. They'll just make it not possible for you to buy that when digital currency, if that is all you have. And it's time for you to start fighting for your freedom to travel, your freedom to eat, your freedom to own the car you want, your freedom to speech. It really is time. Look at the nightmare England has become. Just simple people standing up to try to protect their women and children from rapists and gangs. And now they're criminals just by doing that, just by standing up for their own women and children. And this, don't think the European proverb is not far off, it's much the same. And I will try to do a very detailed breakdown about the propaganda and censorship. I'm holding out for a very specific, very special interview I would like to do with someone who can actually break down and tell you how they are doing the media control and censorship, and what intelligence agencies that have united together to form new agencies working with the UN and the EU in order to accomplish this. But individually, there's a couple of things you can do. Here's the positive. I'm not going to make it all that. Here's the positive. What you really need to do is buy older cars. And you look at, again, another government brilliant concept. We see it, for instance, here in California. This new turn of the year, my car insurance doubled overnight. I've been with this company for 20 plus years. It doubled. And it doubled is a bit steep. So I started looking into it, calling around. So, I have a couple of Harleys, I have a car. So we're looking for a different car company, a different insurance company. Most insurance companies have moved out of California. They just left because they cannot make money here. Because the government decree said, no, you cannot raise rates. And at the same time, the government decrees, minimum wage is now up to 20 plus. And we have all the different shipping problems and delivery problems. So now parts on cars are up from 31%, and labor on repairing cars up 33%. That means the insurance companies are paying way more over the past couple of years for repairing cars, for insurance claims, than they were before. And they were actually running in the red. So they started leaving the state. I could not find an insurance company in California who would insure my bikes. I couldn't even find any they don't just, no, we don't cover services in that area anymore. The car I could, yes, just because eventually there's only a handful of insurance companies left, and they went to the government and said, well, we're going to double rate or we're going to leave the state and you will have none. So they relented. That's why insurance on new cars are going to go through the roof. Again, it's for those who actually has a brain and understand a little bit about how and why inflation happens. And you can just see how fast it happened over the last 3.5 years, how food has tripled here. I love the fact that when they do the calculation of inflation, is 7, 8, 9%. they have taken, you have to understand how they calculate these things. They take out um, food, housing, and fuel. They take that out of the calculation. Food, housing, fuel. What else actually matters to you? Nothing. That's all you really are is food, housing, and fuel. If they take that out, yeah, it's only 9%. If they kept it in, it would be a couple of 100%, or at least the 50s and the hundreds. They don't want to say that number. Same thing as in Britain. I saw that this year we had created what was it, 1.9 million new jobs. And what they forget to tell you is that over 75% of those are given to non-British citizens. Same thing here in America. We created, I can't remember how many hundreds of thousands of jobs that was created. Of course, they lied about that number, and that was cleaned up a couple of weeks ago. Too much to do. But the vast majority of the new jobs created have not been given to American citizens. So when they say, oh, there's many more new jobs, but they're not going to the citizens of the country. So what good is it? So we have some problems. But again, the bright side is buy an older car. Buy a car that's 10, 20 years old. Find the best you can get. So you'll spend less money buying it. Now you get to send your kid to technical college to learn how to fix it. Then he or she will actually learn a technical skill, which is far higher demand than the wonderful Marxist colleges that are by this point in time near useless. They'll come out without a college debt, and they'll actually know how to fix things. You'll drive older cars. You'll pay a lot less for them. You'll also pay a lot less in insurance for them. For the money you save, you can spend an extra 5-10 grand in making this older car your forever car and make it just everything you want to do. You can put a new engine. It's not that expensive. Put a new engine in a good car. But now get the older cars, the one without the internet connection, the one they can't take from you. They're still going to grandfather it. When they make all electric or gas-powered cars illegal, they're still not going to take them from you just yet. And I'll say, again, go diesel. It's still far better than electric, far more reliable and cheaper. That's just my 2 cents. And again, you'll save in insurance. And if you can't get your car insured or can't afford to get your older car insured, well, then you pay for the base insurance and then you put a little money aside for the possibility of an accident. So now it's about saving money, putting assets aside, and keeping an eye on what is going on in the news and the media. Now, I just gave you a little bit of what is coming with the new cars. This all started with a Hyundai, where the owner, he had an automatic update that all of a sudden the guy actually read through it and said, now it's GEO fencing. And he went to the dealership, oh, that's automatic, but we'll never do it unless the government tells us to. That's all I would need to know. Do you want to drive a car that can be remotely controlled by someone in the government or turned off if someone deems it necessary? Or if there's a riot and everybody's locked down, but you want to get the hell out of town because there's a riot and they're burning down your city, which is happening. Do you not want to get out? Do you want the government to say, oh, no, we're going to geofence all the cars. No one moves. So you can't even flee from a situation? Really need to think about what they're doing. And like I said, in Europe, by law, all new cars from 2024 will have this. So I say, find your forever car. And it's going to be an older car and keep it, because your electric or your new car can be hacked. The data can be taken and stolen. And well, on that sense, and maybe also someone can hack it to not have the geofencing operate or connect. But that's a whole different story that I am not technically qualified for. But you really need to think about who you're voting for. And these are the questions you need to ask. And you need to write your congressmen, your mayors, your small town mayors, your chiefs of police. Are you going to make a speech or a thought illegal? Are you going to arrest me for speaking my mind on one of the internet websites or Facebook or something? Where is this going? Because it's time for you, really, and especially in Germany. It's very interesting how the Germans are now panicking because a party to the right has won some local elections, and it's interesting, this Alternative for Deutschland. Very interesting when I saw that, because I actually pulled up their party platform, These people are deemed extremists and right-wingers and borderline Nazis. And I read the party program. It's also in English. It's online. Again, you don't have to take my word for it. Look up what I'm saying. There's nothing. They're basically a classic liberal party. It's very basic common sense. There's nothing about invading Poland at all. Um, there's nothing harsh or hard in there at all. Um, so again, don't believe what you're saying, and you better tell your grandmother, especially in Germany, tell your grannies to stop voting for these idiots that have destroyed what Germany is and will be. It really is time for people to start waking up around the world as to who you are putting in charge and what their agenda really is, because for the most part, it does not appear to be what's best for you. And they seem so far removed from reality that they might not actually know what is best for you. They just know what they think they know. And for the most part, that's wrong. Just look at mainstream media. Anyway, this was about cars. It took me 25 minutes to tell you about cars, but I think you should know and be aware that sooner or later, your electronics and your cars, you always know that your phone listening to you and tracking you. Get a silent pocket if you want to go somewhere in peace. And your car is too big to put in one of those. So you better get a car that is on your side, not on their side. And that's just a strange thing to say. Anyway, I will try to keep you a shorter update than 26 minutes next time. And please like and follow. I'm trying to sort of build this channel a bit, and you all know that YouTube won't monetize this because they have no idea what I'm doing, and I can't appeal that because I don't have that option. So this is just you and me, but you can always follow me on Lost Battlefields and watch a little history over there, because history is what we got as long as we can remember it correctly and portray it the same way. Be safe, be well, and have fun, because you have to have fun.